Shadow, our white German Shepherd, was subject to some awful abuse and neglect, which has made him a dangerous dog. Today I'm on the receiving end of his aggressive outbursts and have to make a decision of is he savable or is he destined for the euthanasia table. I'm back working with Shadow, the severely abused, beaten and mistreated white German Shepherd that has absolutely found its way right into my heart, and it's a case that I'm taking very personally, as it's a case I'm very, very aware is right on the doorstep of euthanasia and something that I would really like to help him avoid, because I do truly believe that deep down there's a wonderful dog there, and if we can just help him overcome some of these issues that have stemmed from that neglect and abuse, that we can definitely find him a good fit where he can go and live out the rest of his life in comfort, fun, loving home environment. The first test, which is always really interesting, in the first session I had with him, a lot of the initial session was about getting him over that reactivity towards me at the threshold of his kennel. Now, we were able to achieve that quite quickly the first session. Second session, it was almost non-existent, which was fantastic progress for me to be able to kind of come in, not really waste too much time, be able to go in, get a lead on him without worrying about getting bit, to then be able to get out and continue our work with him, which, like I say, happened very quickly, and we got straight out into the field, which gave us even more time to work with him. Starting to build a very good picture of Shadow and his temperament and his characteristics, but I was also acutely aware of the unpredictability of a case like this. From the outset, it might look like things are going very positively because he's quite quiet, he's not overly reactive, but oftentimes it's the quiet, low reactive cases that you have to be especially careful of, especially in terms of bites. They're the ones that will just bite and attack out of nowhere without any prior warning. The dogs that are losing their minds and are very vocal, those are the dogs that you can communicate with a little bit easier, and for me in particular they're a little bit easier to understand. These quiet cases, you have to definitely always be very memorable of what kind of dog that it is that we're working with here. So my early priority was again to build engagement. I know that right now we have absolutely zero obedience, but it is incredibly difficult to teach any form of obedience if I can't get a dog to engage with me, to look up to me for guidance and direction, be interested in the rewards that I want to praise him for his engagement, for working for me. So again, we did a little bit of a tune-up on the lead of trying to just do some basic movement drills, getting him to follow me if he was making his own decision, a little bit of lead pressure just to redirect him back towards me, and when he comes back towards me I can then praise it heavily. This is going to be a drill that we're going to have to be working on over and over and over again, just to really rock solid and build up that foundation of engagement, because with a case like this that spent so long being abused with no guidance, direction or fair leadership, it is just going to be a very challenging case. We've been using food drive to be able to build up on some of these drills, and we're definitely seeing a little bit of success. The problem that I was noticing is that we can usually get maybe 30 seconds of engagement and interest out of him, and then his mind goes again, and we really need to be able to kind of dial up that time to be able to make any significant progress with Shadow. So I decided to test bringing out a toy and seeing if we had any prey drive or toy drive. Now again, absolutely this is something that I don't recommend inexperienced people doing, and it is something that with a dog like this you have to be incredibly careful when implementing any kind of prey drive into a case like this. But with Shadow being on death's door of euthanasia, if we can't get on top of it, it was a risk that I was prepared to take if it was going to allow me to build that engagement, which can then allow me to teach him the appropriate ways to behave without having to fall back to constant correction-based approaches. If we absolutely have to go there to save Shadow's life, then we will do. But ideally, I'd like to make it as a fun, as a positive experience as possible for him, to really build up that trust, because trust is just something that is non-existent in Shadow's life with humans. So I got the toy out and I wanted to see what kind of drive and interest he would have in the toy. We were able to get a little bit of interest, and then on one of the occasions where the interest was piqued with the toy, his body language became very evident to me that something wasn't going to go very well with this. Now again, for my love for Shadow and wanting to save him, I was willing to take a bit of a chance personally and pursue it, because if we could get over the potential hurdles, it was something that would be able to help him. Now, to do that, that's where I put on my leather and Kevlar gloves, because I knew that there was potentially a bite coming if we were going to continue to push on with this ideal of utilising a toy for positive reinforcement. We were trying to build up a bit of drive, build up a bit of engagement, and the toy hit the floor. Body language changed instantly, and I knew exactly what was about to happen. Now, this leaves me in a serious situation in terms of, for my beliefs and foundations in leadership and engagement, that toy is my toy. And Shadow needs to understand that that toy is my toy, and that he can't claim that toy or guard that toy with any kind of aggression. Now, again, I'm not going to go in with any kind of harsh corrections or punishment here, but it was a process that I wasn't willing to take that loss on. So as I went in to reach the toy, that's where his body language shifted even further, and then an attack struck completely out of nowhere, kind of zero warning. It wasn't an overly bad one, but there was definitely intent. Luckily, because of my experience and skill set in reading body language, I was kind of aware that it was coming, and I needed to kind of help him get over that, because there is certain situations where you can't avoid these situations altogether. And as a behaviourist, of someone who is going to get involved in deciding whether this is a safe dog to be able to go home somewhere, I almost have to be able to see what is going to happen in these situations. So the attack came. It wasn't attack with any serious malice, but if I wasn't quick to react, quick to utilise lead pressure, quick to remove him from the situation, it definitely would have been a bite that would have probably broke skin and wouldn't have been a very nice experience. But we went through the process, and this is where calm, consistent leadership absolutely is incredibly important. I used nothing more than verbal correction, body language and redirection to diffuse the situation. It would have been very easy and tempted to go back and meet kind of violence with violence, but it would have been very counterproductive. So again, I used no punishment or correction other than a verbal correction to make it very clear that I do not like this. However, it's not going to work. You can keep coming at me and I'm going to stay here. I'm going to remove you from the toy, but I'm not going to drop the lead. I'm not going to run away. Your desired outcome of making me go away from the thing that you're guarding isn't going to happen in this situation. So I remained calm, quiet. I saw that his body language started to change, and there was a very interesting moment where, whilst remaining calm and quiet with good body language, good posture, obviously my heart rate's going a million miles an hour, but I'm trying to bring that down, remain calm, display good leadership, display calm consistency, that his body language changed and I got a bit of a nuzzle to my hand. This is clearly an incredibly confused dog that simply is just in fear and has zero idea of how to interact in a world. I truly believe that at the core of Shadow, there is a dog that simply wants to be loved, admired, cared for, and to work with an owner. But because of what's happened to him in his past, that confusion, that abuse, that neglect, that mistrust just has put him in a situation where he has no idea how to act. Now, putting in something like a basic toy is something that we're going to have to find out. There was no way that we were going to be able to move forward without addressing these situations. And it's one of those things that a lot of trainers will shy away from, which is why these shepherds so often get written off as dangerous cases that need to be put down. Now, for me, it was a low-level attack or a bite attempt, if that's what you want to call it, any of the terms that you want to call it. I've seen much, much worse. For a lot of people, that will be quite dramatic. For me, it was quite basic. It was quite easy to maintain, easy to stay on top of. But it shows the importance of the unpredictability of a breed like this that I mentioned. Put yourself in a situation where that dog has only been worked on in a very positive manner, hasn't had his boundaries tested. It would be potentially quite easy to say this is just an abused dog that needs a little bit of love and attention. He's quite quiet, he's not overly reactive with other dogs. Family takes him home, friends with children come over to the home, he's chewing on a bone, child goes over towards the dog, and that same kind of attack happened. Now for me, as a 6'3", 300-pound man, I can maintain those situations quite easily. For a 3-year-old toddler, that is a devastating situation that results in Shadow instantly being put down. So it's something that we have to test. It's something that we have to address if we're going to be able to save Shadow's life. So moving forward, what we wanted to do was finish on a high. So we did a little bit more engagement work, a little bit more just kind of directional change work, bringing his focus back to me, bit of positive reinforcement back with food, which is something that he doesn't seem to be as possessive of as clearly he is with something like a toy, which then allows us to finish the session on a high. We didn't want to finish the session on that issue. We finished the session on a high, we walk back, he goes back in his kennel, he got some more food, a bit of praise from me, and we now leave. And it's time to now sit back, reevaluate, look at the footage, look what happened, and then create a plan as now moving forward, everything is going to be around resource guarding. We have to get on top of resource guarding. If we can get on top of that, I truly believe that Shadow can get to a point where he'll be a safe, reliable dog in the right hands and in the right home. I don't think he'll ever be a dog that can be placed with children. I don't think he'll ever be a dog that will be placed with a novice owner. But if we can get him to a place of reliability that can then go to a home with somebody that understands these dogs and these cases, I do believe that Shadow can live out a happy, healthy life. We just need to help him get to that stage.